It was 9 p.m. on my 68th birthday, and I was sitting alone at my kitchen table, staring at a text message that shattered what was left of my heart. The message was from my daughter Joyce, and it read, "We need space from each other. Please don't visit us or the kids anymore." Space. After I had given them $850,000 over the past 5 years. I sat there in the darkness, surrounded by the silence of a birthday no one remembered, holding my phone with shaking hands. But here's the thing. I wasn't shaking from sadness anymore. I was shaking from pure, cold rage. That forgotten birthday text. It wasn't just cruel, it was the biggest tactical mistake my ungrateful family had ever made. Now, before I tell you how this story ends, and trust me, the ending is going to shock you, I need you to understand something. If you're enjoying this story of justice and family betrayal, please hit that subscribe button right now. Because stories like this don't get told enough, and I have plenty more where this came from. But I have to ask you something, and I want you to comment below. Have you ever been taken advantage of by your own family? Because what happened to me over the next 6 months taught me that sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones planning to destroy you. Let me start from the beginning and tell you how one forgotten birthday became the catalyst for the most satisfying revenge I've ever witnessed. My name is Catherine. 5 years ago, when my husband Douglas died, he left me everything. The house, the business, the investments, $1.2 million total. I was devastated, lost, and completely alone, except for Joyce and her family. Joyce swooped in immediately. "Mom, you can't handle all this by yourself. Let me help you manage everything." At first, it felt like love. She visited twice a week, brought the grandchildren, Anita, who was 12, and Philip, who was 10, and we had these beautiful family dinners. She mentioned little financial struggles. Philip needed braces. Anita wanted piano lessons. Lawrence's construction business was having a slow month. Of course I helped. What else was the money for? First it was $3,000 for Philip's braces. Then $15,000 for a family vacation to make memories while the kids are young. Then $45,000 for Lawrence's business loan when the bank turned him down. Then $120,000 for the down payment on their dream house because the kids deserve stability. Every single time, Joyce hugged me and said, "Mom, you're such a blessing. We're so lucky to have you." But somewhere along the way, the hugs got shorter and the requests got bigger. The visits became less about seeing me and more about solving whatever crisis had come up that week. When I tried to suggest maybe we should slow down the spending, Joyce got this look. Hurt and disappointed. "Mom, I thought family was supposed to help each other. Daddy would want us to use this money to build a good life." She was right about one thing. Douglas would have wanted his money used for family. He just wouldn't have recognized what our family had become. I had transformed from a grieving widow into nothing more than a human ATM machine, dispensing cash whenever someone pressed the right emotional buttons. And the saddest part? I was grateful for it. I thought their financial dependence meant they needed me, that I was still important in their lives. I had no idea I was funding my own destruction. The birthday thing wasn't just about one forgotten day. It was the culmination of a year of feeling increasingly invisible. Thanksgiving, they were too busy with Lawrence's family. Christmas, they'd already made plans to go skiing, a trip I'd unknowingly funded through their emergency home repair request. Easter, the kids had too much homework. But they always had time to call when they needed money. 3 weeks before my birthday, Joyce called me in tears. Lawrence's business was failing again, and they were facing foreclosure. Could I help with $65,000 to catch up on mortgage payments and keep them afloat? Of course I said yes. I always said yes. I transferred the money on a Tuesday. On Thursday, Anita posted pictures on Instagram from a luxury resort in Florida, family vacation to decompress from all the stress. They had used my foreclosure emergency money for a vacation, while telling me they couldn't visit because they were too worried about finances. That's when I realized I wasn't a mother anymore. I was a resource to be managed and manipulated. But the birthday silence was what finally broke something in me. I called Joyce that morning, excited to maybe have lunch together, maybe see the grandchildren. "Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry, I completely forgot. We're just so overwhelmed right now. Maybe next week? She forgot. After I'd given her nearly 3/4 of my life savings, she forgot I existed unless she needed something. That's when I sent my own text. Joyce, I need some time to think about our relationship. I won't be available for any financial assistance for the next 30 days. Her response came in 3 minutes. Mom, what's wrong? Are you okay? Do you need me to come over? Amazing how quickly she remembered I existed when the bank account closed. If you're as shocked by this manipulation as I was, please subscribe, because what happens next will blow your mind. And I want to make sure you don't miss how this story of betrayal turns into the most satisfying justice you've ever seen. But tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you discovered your own child was using your emergency money for luxury vacations while claiming they were too stressed to spend time with you? Because my next move changed everything. Day 3 of my financial embargo, Joyce showed up at my door with flowers, homemade cookies, and both grandchildren. Grandma Catherine, Anita threw herself at me. We missed you so much. Mom said you were sick? Sick. That was interesting. Joyce pushed past me into the kitchen, already talking fast. Mom, I'm so sorry about your birthday. Lawrence and I have been under incredible stress. The business, the kids, you know how it is. But we realize we've been taking you for granted. She had brought a whole speech. How much they loved me, how grateful they were, how they wanted to do better. In fact, she said, pulling out her phone, I've already talked to Dr. Timothy about getting you a full physical, just to make sure you're taking care of yourself. At your age, we worry about your health, your memory, health. At my age. The next week was a masterclass in manipulation. Daily visits, constant concern about my wellness, gentle suggestions that maybe I should consider having someone help me manage my affairs. But I wasn't stupid. I started paying attention to their conversations when they thought I couldn't hear. She's definitely getting more forgetful, Joyce whispered to Lawrence in my kitchen. The lawyer said if we can get 2 doctors to sign off on diminished capacity, the guardianship should be straightforward, Lawrence whispered back. Then we can sell this house, get her into assisted living, and manage the money properly. That's when I realized they weren't trying to reconcile. They were building a case to have me declared incompetent so they could steal everything. My own daughter was literally plotting to have me declared mentally unfit so she could control my assets. The love bombing, the sudden concern about my health, the doctor visits. It was all part of a calculated plan to convince the world that sweet old Dorothy had lost her mind and needed her caring daughter to take over. The woman who had forgotten my birthday was now pretending to care about my memory problems that didn't exist. Here's what Joyce forgot about her old mother. Before I married Douglas, I was a legal secretary for 30 years. I knew exactly how guardianship fraud worked. So I did what any smart woman would do. I hired the best elder law attorney in the state, Gregory Chris, and a private investigator, Jonathan Stanley. First, I got my own psychological evaluation from Dr. Rebecca Timothy, not the doctor Joyce had suggested, but the leading geriatric psychiatrist in the city. Full cognitive testing, mental health assessment, the works. Results? Perfect cognitive function, no signs of dementia, completely mentally competent. Then Gregory had Jonathan start digging into Joyce and Lawrence's finances. What we found was devastating. They weren't just living off my money, they'd been systematically lying about everything. Lawrence's failing construction business, he'd been collecting unemployment while working under the table. The emergency mortgage payments, they'd refinanced twice and blown the equity on luxury purchases. But the worst part? Jonathan found evidence that they'd been spreading rumors about my mental state for months. Neighbors, friends, even my own doctor had been getting calls from Joyce expressing concern about my memory, my judgment, my ability to live independently. She'd been laying the groundwork for this fraud for over a year. The private investigator also uncovered something else. Joyce had already consulted with 3 different attorneys about guardianship procedures. She had medical power of attorney documents ready to file. She'd even toured assisted living facilities and picked one out. All while pretending to love and care about me. My daughter hadn't just been stealing my money. She'd been systematically destroying my reputation, manipulating my relationships, and building a legal case to prove I was incompetent. Every concerned phone call to my neighbors, every suggestion that I seemed confused, every recommendation for a doctor's visit, it was all evidence for her fraud case. The woman who claimed to love me had been plotting to steal my entire life for over a year. I decided to give them one last chance to come clean. I invited them for Sunday dinner, the same Sunday dinner tradition we'd had for years, back when I thought they actually wanted to spend time with me. I cooked all their favorites: pot roast, mashed potatoes, apple pie. I set the table with Douglas's good china. I even bought wine. They came dressed nicely, brought flowers, acted like the perfect loving family. Anita showed me her report card. Philip told me about soccer. Joyce and Lawrence were charming, attentive, asking about my health, my sleep, whether I was managing okay on my own. After dinner, Joyce broached the subject I knew was coming. "Mom, Lawrence and I have been talking, and we're really worried about you living alone in this big house. What if something happened? What if you fell? What if you forgot to turn off the stove?" Lawrence nodded gravely. "We've found this beautiful assisted living community, Sunset Manor. They have activities, medical care on site, and you'd have so much less to worry about. Plus," Joyce added, "we could sell this house and make sure you have plenty of money for care. We'd handle all the financial stress for you." I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd raised, loved, sacrificed for, and felt absolutely nothing. "That sounds wonderful," I said, "but before we make any big decisions, I have something to show you both." They had no idea what was coming. For weeks, they'd been playing the perfect family, putting on this elaborate show of love and concern, all while planning to steal my house, my freedom, and every penny I had left. They thought they were so clever, so manipulative, so in control. If you think this dinner is about to become the most satisfying confrontation you've ever heard, hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next is pure justice served on a silver platter. But I have to ask, have you ever had to sit through someone's fake concern while knowing they were plotting against you? Because the look on Joyce's face when I pulled out that folder was worth every penny I'd lost. I walked to the kitchen and brought back a thick folder. "These are the psychological evaluations I had done last month," I said, sliding the papers across the table. "Dr. Timothy confirmed I'm in perfect mental health. No cognitive decline, no memory issues, completely competent to manage my own affairs." Joyce's face went white. "These," I continued, pulling out more documents, "are the financial records my investigator compiled. Every lie you've told me about money, every vacation you took with my emergency funds, every fake crisis you created to manipulate me." Lawrence started to speak, but I held up my hand. "And these," I said, placing the final stack of papers on the table, "are copies of your consultations with guardianship attorneys, your communications about having me declared incompetent, and recordings of conversations where you discussed stealing my assets." The room went completely silent, except for the clock ticking on the mantel. "Joyce, do you remember what your father used to say about people who mistake kindness for weakness?" She was crying now, but I wasn't finished. "He used to say that giving someone everything they ask for isn't love. It's enabling. And enabling someone to destroy you isn't kindness. It's stupidity." I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the garden Douglas had planted 20 years ago. "I've been stupid for 5 years. I've let you drain me financially, emotionally, and mentally, while convincing myself it was love. But planning to have me declared incompetent so you could steal the rest? That's not family dysfunction. That's criminal fraud." I turned back to face them. "So here's what's going to happen. First, you're going to leave my house and never come back. Second, the monthly payments stop today. Third, you have 30 days to vacate the house I bought you, because I'm taking it back. And fourth, I've changed my will. Every penny of what you didn't already steal is going to charity." The silence was deafening. Joyce was sobbing. Lawrence was staring at the papers in shock, and for the first time in 5 years, I felt completely in control of my own life. That was 6 months ago. Joyce called, texted, and showed up my door for weeks, alternating between apologies and threats. Lawrence tried to intimidate me. They even brought the children once, hoping I'd cave when I saw Anita and Philip crying. But you know what? I didn't cave. For the first time in my adult life, I chose myself. The first month was the hardest. Joyce showed up at my doorstep every few days, sometimes with tears, sometimes with anger. "Mom, you're destroying our family," she'd scream through my locked door. "The kids don't understand why their grandmother abandoned them." Abandoned them. The woman who had stolen $850,000 from me was accusing me of abandonment. Lawrence got desperate when the foreclosure notices started arriving. He called me, his voice shaking with rage. "You're a bitter old woman," he said. "No wonder Douglas died early. Living with you probably killed him." But I had my team now. Gregory Chris, my attorney, handled all their legal threats. Jonathan Stanley, my investigator, documented every harassment attempt. Dr. Rebecca Timothy had given me the psychological evaluation that proved my competency beyond any doubt. The house they lost? I donated it to a women's shelter. The remaining $300,000 from Douglas's estate? It's funding college scholarships for kids who age out of foster care, kids who truly need help, not spoiled adults who see family as an ATM machine. My own house? I'm living in it happily, hosting book club every Thursday, volunteering at the animal shelter on weekends, taking watercolor painting classes at the community center. For the first time in decades, my calendar is full of things I want to do, not obligations to people who were using me. Joyce sent me birthday cards now, Mother's Day cards, Christmas cards, all with the same message. She's sorry, she loves me, can we please talk? Last month, she sent a 10-page handwritten letter explaining how sorry she was, how she'd made mistakes, how Lawrence had influenced her decisions. She promised to pay back every penny if I'd just give them another chance. She said the kids missed me, that she missed me, that she'd learned her lesson. But here's the thing about burning bridges, sometimes the view is better from the other side. I showed that letter to Dr. Timothy during one of my regular checkups. "Catherine," she said, "this is a classic manipulation tactic. She's not sorry she hurt you. She's sorry she got caught and lost her income source." Anita and Philip? They're old enough to have their own phones now. They called me sometimes when their parents weren't around. They didn't understand why Mom and Dad were so angry all the time, why they had to move from their big house to a smaller apartment, why Grandma Catherine didn't come to family dinners anymore. "Grandma, did we do something wrong?" Anita asked me during one of our secret phone calls. "Mom says you don't love us anymore." My heart broke for those children. They were innocent victims in their parents' greed. "Sweetheart," I told her, "I will always love you and Philip. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements that kids don't understand, but that doesn't change how much I love you. Someday, when they're adults, I'll tell them the truth about what their parents tried to do to me. But for now, I just told them I loved them, and I was proud of them, and that sometimes grown-ups made decisions that kids didn't understand." I've started a small college fund for both of them, money that Joyce and Lawrence will never touch. When they turn 18, they'll have options their parents tried to steal from them. I'm 68 years old, and I've finally learned the difference between being needed and being used, between family and financial parasites, between love and manipulation. I've learned that setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's survival. My neighbors, the ones Joyce had called to express concerns about my mental state, now see me gardening every morning, hosting dinner parties, traveling to visit my sister in Arizona. They realize they were manipulated too, and several have apologized for believing Joyce's lies. And you know what? Space isn't so bad after all. In fact, it's exactly what I needed to remember who I was before I became someone's personal bank account. If this story of standing up for yourself resonates with you, please subscribe, because everyone deserves to hear stories about choosing self-respect over manipulation. And I have more stories like this to share. But tell me in the comments, do you think I was too harsh, or do you believe some betrayals are unforgivable? Because 6 months later, I still sleep peacefully every night, knowing I finally chose myself over people who saw me as nothing more than a source of money.